I'm Mother Cassiana at Holy Protection Monastery in Lake George, Colorado. We started in October of 1993. I'd been in a monastery in Pennsylvania for 11 years, from the early 1970s until the early 1980s. And the spiritual father there, he's Archbishop Nathaniel, now of the Romanian diocese. And he had always said, and back in the 1970s, there were not very many monasteries for Orthodox in the United States. And what his vision had always been that someone could start driving in New York all the way to California and stay at a different monastery every night. He said that's how far apart the monastery should be. And the priest who at that time was at Saints Constantine and Helen was Father Matthew Olson. And I remembered the letter from Father Matthew saying, you should come to Colorado, and we don't have anything here, and this is, we want a monastery, we want a monastery. So I picked up the phone and I called him. And within a few hours he called me back and he said, I have a house for you to rent in Calhan for $250 a month. I said, we don't have $250. And he said, we'll take care of it. So we came. And we arrived in Calhan literally with nothing. And the people were wonderful to us. And we literally found this property in the newspaper. And so we were in Calhan for 2 years. So in September of 1995, we actually had enough money to make a down payment. And this small chapel that you can see was the garage. So that's how we ended up here. People say, how did you find this place? I said, it was just God's will. There's no other way it could have been found. Well, the monastic life it's the same and it's different in all the monasteries. But everything revolves around the liturgical cycle. The main thing that we have to remember, as a monastery, is we've left the world. People always ask monastics, what's your typical day like? And we always say there's no such thing. This is very rugged out here. It is remote, so there's a lot of work outside. We heat with firewood. We do have the bookstore. We mount our own icon prints. You can see some of them on the wall behind me here, and as well as in the bookstore. We have our own sort of style to doing that that's a little unique. Very time-consuming, but it's a labor of love. There are two times a year, in the spring and in the fall, that we have the work groups, and they have been coming for I don't know how many years now. Every spring, every fall. It's tremendous what they can do. They do big jobs. They get up on the roof, they do painting, they do, a lot of the big stuff that relieves us physically from what we're doing, and also financially. I mean, what we would have to pay to have people come and do some of those jobs, they're huge. But when I look at what they do and how they're sacrificing a Saturday to come here, and women come and help with the cooking or do all the cooking, it absolutely amazes me, because I look and I see that dedication and the faith that they have. The work that's done is one thing, but to see their attitude and the love that they have, their love for Christ, it's really encouraging. And the work that is done is phenomenal. The cemetery was started in 2000 with the death of a baby, a stillborn child. We also have a nun who's buried down there, Mother Seraphima, who was a member of the community for a number of years. She was very elderly. I think she was 92 when she died. But mostly we have in the cemetery, and it's kind of it's something we feel very, very deeply about. They are all either stillborn infants or those who died shortly after being born. I mean, within hours. We also have a grave that isn't a grave. And there's a cross there, and we found when a number of people came and saw the cemetery and saw these infants, the infants' graves, and many of them said, you know, I had a miscarriage, 30 years ago, but the baby, we weren't given the baby. So we have a grave there with little stones, and we have the parents do them. And we have plenty of the stones, but they write the baby's name down, and they're varnished and put there. So at least those infants who never had any kind of burial are remembered somewhere. We have one mother who came and she said she'd had 4 abortions, like 3 or 4 decades ago. And they weep over these, and they finally, the mothers and often the fathers will say to me, I feel like I've finally done something for my child. We also discovered with these babies that the church had no service for their burial. And that was really horrifying to us. Priests and parishes are faced with this. There's a stillborn child or a miscarriage, and the parents want the baby buried, and there's nothing in the service books for these infants. We brought this to the attention of several bishops on the Holy Synod of the OCA, and Father Anthony gathered a lot of material, and I was told by one of the bishops to gather some other materials, canons, what the Holy Fathers say, what services are out there, what are the other monasteries doing that have cemeteries in regard to this. Every single monastery said, we have buried these infants, or they've said, we do have a cemetery, it's never come up, but if it did, we would bury them. The Holy Synod of the OCA has, because of this, drawn up a service for the burial of these infants. And this is the grave that's not a grave with the little stones is something parishes can do. It doesn't just have to be here. The monastery is a perfect place for it, yes, but it's something also that I would encourage parishes to do. But it is something that we feel very, very deeply about because these infants have been ignored. The purpose of monasteries, the purpose of the monastic life, is for the salvation of those who are living there. It is a place set apart. It's completely given to God. And to have people say, I feel such peace when I come to the monastery. One nun many years ago, and someone said that at another monastery, she said, you see the peace, but we see the spiritual warfare that we face every day, and the warfare that people who come face every day. Because we live here, we don't always see that peace. And I don't just speak for myself, but I think I can say it, for all of the monasteries. The reactions that people have, many people come weighed down with incredible problems, incredible trials and things that they're going through. But that's what people mostly comment in all of the monasteries. We hope that they leave with some sense of a peace, but also with some more of an awareness of all of our own sinfulness, and that they can go back out into the world and face the Sodom and Gomorrah that's out there, and again be able to limp the right way, to keep their focus, to be able to say no to the things that are wrong in the world and that they're just not going to submit to them. And they find that kind of support in their parishes, with their priests, and they especially find that in the monasteries.